Life is a battle you cannot win. No matter what, you will lose the people you love. You will never have everything you want, and the things you do have will go away eventually, and your story will end with your death. The journey of life is filled with pain and loss, and no matter what you do, you will never avoid suffering. This is the view taken by French philosopher Albert Camus, portrayed in his book The Plague. The story of this book is desolate, and it does not have a happy ending, a mirror of the real world as Camus perceived it. In this book, the city of Aura is overtaken by a deadly disease. At first, it only affects a few people, but as the disease starts to spread and the casualty rate increases, people start to panic. Business as usual stops, and the city goes on lockdown, not permitting anyone to leave, and all efforts are directed at stopping the spread of this disease. What we see here is a chaotic world where not everything makes sense, the rules are not always fair, and people die every day, and you don't know when it will be you. And as far as Camus sees it, this is an accurate reflection of the real world. Things look bleak, and we see a variety of reactions to this disease. Some people like the new way of things. They didn't love their job before, and now they don't have to worry about it. Others speak of how suffering builds character, and how this disease isn't all bad because it can lead us to greater heights of virtue. The main character, Dr. Rowe, has a different perspective. According to Dr. Rowe, the disease is bad. Suffering, while it does build character, is still a bad thing, and it is only right that we put our whole effort into stopping this disease. The only proper reaction to a situation like this is to try to reduce the suffering of others. Throughout the story, we see the way that these different outlooks lead to different courses of action. Those who are happy with the new way of things thrive with this disease, even though it brings much suffering to other people. Those who claim that suffering builds character and that there's a good side to this disease tend not to do much in the way of fighting back against this disease. Dr. Rowe and those who share his outlook do what they can to stop the spread of this disease and to reduce the suffering of others. They're constantly working with other people and constantly on their feet trying to find new solutions. For the rest of the story, we see many people die, even those who worked closest alongside Dr. Rowe in fighting against the plague. The plague spares no one, not even children, and we see that this deep suffering causes so much anguish in the city. When the disease is finally gone, we see that Dr. Rowe is still alive, although many of his friends have died, and he has to struggle with this reality. He did everything he could to prevent those deaths, and yet he failed. But there is one overarching victory that Dr. Rowe has throughout the story. Seeing through the eyes of Camus, the disease represents anything that causes suffering in the world. Most importantly, it represents death. Having lived through World War II, Camus understands that there's nothing you can do to stop the people you love from dying. He understands that suffering is inevitable. But through this understanding, he also knows that there's something deeper within yourself where you can win a great victory, although you may fail at saving the ones you love. Death is inevitable, but hopelessness is not. Meaninglessness is not. Just like Dr. Rowe, there are some battles in life you cannot win. Life itself can seem like a string of inevitable failures. Camus' advice, as portrayed in The Plague, is to never stop fighting. You don't lose when the person you love dies. You lose the moment you stop fighting. This way, in your last moments, you can look back and know that you have lived a meaningful life. You have lived a life of doing what is good and striving to relieve the suffering of others. It is inevitable that one day you will die, but it is not inevitable that one day you will lose hope. This does not mean that it should not matter to you when horrible things happen. According to Camus, the opposite is true. Just because something is inevitable doesn't mean we should be resigned to let it happen. A hero is someone to whom the suffering of all people matters, and yet is not disheartened when he fails to relieve this suffering. A hero will keep trying, knowing that one day he will fail, and yet he will still believe that his efforts are not in vain. At the heart of Camus' message is the idea that the only way to fight inevitable suffering is with decency. Decency means a lot of things. As we see through the actions of Dr. Rowe, decency means putting in your best effort to try to make things better for the people around you. Whether this means volunteering your time to help the doctors keep things under control during a time of plague, or if it simply means doing your job as best you can, because someone somewhere is counting on you to do it. Decency manifests itself in many large ways through the work you do, but it also shows itself through small gestures, like showing kindness to the people you work with, or taking the time to speak with your neighbors about what's going on in the world. Sometimes it even means saying a comforting word to a sick child who might not make it out alive. All of these things fall into what Camus sees as decency, and this is how you fight inevitable suffering. Back to the question of what we can get out of reading The Plague. Camus wants us to see the suffering in our own life, whether that's a plague like in the book, or maybe it's poverty or war, or something more nuanced, like unjust social standards, or cultural norms that just don't seem fair. Everyone, everywhere, has something that is causing them to suffer. What he does not want us to do is to run or hide from suffering, but to acknowledge that the suffering is there and to do something about it. It will not suffice to simply blame others for our suffering, but we must accept that suffering is a fact of life, and we must learn to pick up our suffering and walk with it before we can hope to overcome it. The idea is not to run from suffering or to avoid it altogether, but to acknowledge the real suffering that is happening to us and the people around us, and to do what we can to help the world be healed. If you can fix the problem, great. But if not, then you need to learn to walk with a broken leg. You need to be able to find meaning in a life where you are suffering. And the way, as Camus says it, to find meaning in a life like that is by reaching out to those around you with an open palm, offering your help. This is the decency that Camus writes about. So we are left with this to ponder. What is causing the people in your life to suffer, and what can you do to stand up in the face of your suffering and help them?